In bone, there's one thing you can't fake: time. If a wound had the chance to close, if the bone started to rebuild itself and literally seal the damage, then the creature carrying it didn't die right away. It walked away, it lived longer, it endured. Today, you're going to hear about some of the most brutal, almost impossible injuries ever survived by ancient animals. And yes, one of these stories is about a human. These aren't campfire legends. They're not random horror stories. They're written in healed fractures, remodeled bone, and scars that only form if the body kept going. Paleontologists and anthropologists weren't there to watch the moment of impact, but they can read what happened afterward. And sometimes what they find feels unreal. This creature should have died, but it didn't. Let's start with the king of surviving the unsurvivable. 1. Sue, the T-Rex who would not quit. If you want a single prehistoric animal that feels like a walking war story, it's a Tyrannosaurus nicknamed Sue. T-Rex wasn't built for clean victories. It was built for messy ones. Close-range fights, bone-crunching bites, struggling prey, rivals that didn't back down. And in that world, injury isn't a rare event. It's a lifestyle. Here's the part most people don't picture when they imagine a giant predator. Getting hurt is easy. Surviving afterward is the hard part. When paleontologists examine a skeleton like Sue's, they aren't just seeing damage. They're asking a specific question. Did the bone show signs of healing? Because fresh damage can happen at death. An accident of burial, scavengers, pressure in the ground. But healing means the injury happened while the animal was alive, and the animal lived long enough for the body to respond. And Sue's story is basically a chain of time-stamped violence, endured complications, and kept functioning anyway. Imagine what that means in real life. A T-Rex doesn't have the option to become cautious forever. It can't switch to berries. It can't hide for months. It still has to move, hunt, defend itself, and feed a body that weighs tons. So when you frame Sue's survival, don't frame it like a monster with plot armor. Frame it like this: a predator at the top of the food chain that still paid for every meal. And sometimes the price was written directly into its bones. Now picture the scene: a late Cretaceous floodplain, heat shimmering over distant trees. Somewhere in that landscape, Sue is moving with the confidence of something that knows it belongs. But confidence doesn't prevent pain. Maybe it's a fight over a kill. Another tyrannosaur steps in, not to challenge the species, but to challenge this individual. A bite snaps shut. Teeth meet bone. The kind of bite that would end almost any other animal's life, right there. But Sue doesn't drop, because some injuries don't kill you in the moment. They try to kill you later. Infection, weakness, a limp that turns into starvation, a damaged area that never fully recovers. And yet Sue kept going, long enough for the skeleton to record the recovery. Big Al, the Allosaurus who survived every hunt, except the last one. 150 million years ago, in what is now Wyoming, a young Allosaurus was hunting across the floodplains of the Morrison Formation. Paleontologists would later name him Big Al. He was about 10 years old, weighed over a ton, and was one of the apex predators of his world. Allosaurus didn't hunt like a Tyrannosaurus. It was lighter, faster, built for a different strategy. Its teeth worked like serrated blades, slicing rather than crushing. A typical hunt wasn't one devastating bite. It was a series of quick strikes: close in, bite, pull back, circle, strike again. Death by 1,000 cuts. But when scientists examined Big Al's skeleton, they found something unusual. Multiple healed injuries scattered across his body. Broken ribs that had fused back together, but crooked. Damage to the vertebrae. And the most telling detail, serious problems in the bones of his left foot, especially around one toe. Analysis revealed signs of osteomyelitis, a bone infection. For a large predator, this is catastrophic. Not just because it's painful, though it is, but because an Allosaurus lives or dies by precision movement. Every turn, every leap, every pivot depends on how confidently those feet grip the ground. How did he get it? Most likely during a hunt. The Jurassic wasn't a safe place even for predators. Stegosaurs, 4-ton herbivores with spiked tails, shared this landscape. Modern research has shown those tail spikes weren't decorative, they were lethal. Paleontologists have found holes in predator bones that match the shape and spacing of stegosaur spikes perfectly. Picture the scene. Big Al targets a stegosaur that's wandered from the herd. He rushes in, tries for a bite to the hind leg, aiming to sever a tendon. But the stegosaur wheels around faster than expected and swings its tail. Big Al tries to dodge, loses his footing and goes down hard. When he lands, his left foot twists under his full weight. One toe takes the impact at entirely the wrong angle. Crack. The fracture alone isn't a death sentence, but a few days later, infection sets in. In a world without antibiotics, bone infections don't heal. They spread. They eat through bone from the inside. Big Al keeps hunting. He has to, but now every step on that left foot is different. He can't pivot as sharply, can't leap as confidently, starts missing kills more often. The infection spreads up the leg, swelling, constant pain. Eventually, he just can't move properly anymore. And for a predator, that means one thing: starvation. Big Al didn't die in a dramatic battle. He died slowly from an infection that started with one badly placed step during one bad hunt. 3. Triceratops. Late Cretaceous period, what is now North Dakota, 67 million years ago. River valleys, forests, open plains. This was Triceratops country, massive herbivores weighing up to 6 tons, defined by their enormous skulls, with 3 horns and a bony frill. That frill was long thought to be display, maybe temperature regulation, but modern research tells a different story. It was armour. Many Triceratops skulls show bite marks and impact damage, and some of those injuries show signs of healing. One skull from the Hell Creek Formation shows this perfectly. Deep gouges in the bony frill that match the tooth spacing of a Tyrannosaurus rex. But here's the key. The bone around those gouges shows remodeling. The edges have smoothed out. New bone tissue has formed. That process takes months. How did it happen? A tyrannosaur attacks a Triceratops. Maybe it's an old individual, weaker, looks like an easier target. The tyrannosaur goes for the classic kill zone, the neck. If you sever the spine or major blood vessels, the fight ends in seconds. But at the last moment, the Triceratops drops its head and angles the frill forward. The tyrannosaur's jaws slam shut on the bony shield. Teeth penetrate, but not all the way through. The bite force is immense, around 6 tons, one of the most powerful of any land predator ever. The Triceratops staggers back, nearly goes down, but holds its footing. It wheels around, horns forward, and the tyrannosaur releases because staying close to 3 sharp horns aimed at your body is asking to be gored. The Triceratops walks away, but with deep punctures in the frill. Over the following weeks, those wounds ache with every head movement. But the body starts repairs. Bone begins to rebuild. Months later, only scars remain, scars that paleontologists would find 67 million years in the future. 4. The Neanderthal who met a cave lion and didn't die, Shanidar Cave, northern Iraq, 50,000 years ago. A group of Neanderthals lived here, sheltering in the limestone cavern during cold seasons. In 1957, archaeologists uncovered the skeleton of an adult male they named Shanidar I. He was about 40 years old when he died, practically elderly by Stone Age standards. But what shocked researchers wasn't his age. It was the sheer amount of trauma written into his bones. His left arm was severely damaged, possibly amputated or withered after a crushing injury. Impact damage to the skull, fractured ribs, and the critical detail, all of these injuries had healed. He'd lived with them for years. What happened to him? We'll never know the full story, but the pattern of injuries allows us to reconstruct one likely scenario. In that region and time period, cave lions lived alongside humans. They were a subspecies of modern lions, but larger. Adult males could weigh 700 pounds. They hunted large herbivores, but weren't above scavenging, and that put them in direct competition with human hunters. The most common flashpoint, a carcass. A group of Neanderthals has killed a deer or wild horse and is butchering the meat. A cave lion appears, drawn by the smell of blood. It doesn't attack immediately. It approaches slowly, testing. The humans stand, raise spears, shout. Usually, that's enough. The lion leaves, but not always. Sometimes the lion is too hungry, or too young and reckless. or simply decides the risk is worth it. It charges. Target: the nearest human, the one standing slightly ahead of the others. Shanidar 1 might have been that man. He tries to dodge, but the lion closes the distance too fast. A swipe from a massive paw knocks him off his feet. Jaws aim for the throat, but he raises his left arm instinctively. Teeth sink into his forearm instead of his neck. The pain is catastrophic, but he's alive. In the next second, the other men rush in. They stab with spears, scream, hurl stones. The lion releases and backs off. This is no longer a hunt. It's a fight where he could get seriously injured. Shanidar 1 survived, but his left arm never worked properly again. Infection may have destroyed muscles and nerves. Bones may have healed crooked. He couldn't hold a spear with both hands anymore, couldn't climb as confidently, couldn't hunt on equal terms with the others. But he kept living, for years. In a world where survival demanded peak physical condition, he somehow found his role. Maybe he taught the younger hunters. Maybe he worked on tools that could be made one-handed. Maybe the group simply fed him because his experience and knowledge were valuable. We don't know, but we know this. He didn't disappear after that encounter. His bones show that after multiple severe injuries, he lived long enough to become one of the oldest Neanderthals, whose remains we've ever found. Conclusion. Big Al died from an infection that started in a single toe. A Triceratops survived a tyrannosaur bite because the attack hit bone designed to absorb it. And Shanidar 1 lost his arm in a fight with a predator and still lived for years afterward. If you want more stories like these, drop a comment and tell me which one hit hardest: Big Al, the Triceratops, or Shanidar 1. I read every single comment. Hit like and subscribe. There are a lot more prehistoric survival stories out there, and they're all written in bone.